Hey dude, you think you know who you are, huh? Wait, do you really? Because tonight, tonight, the mask cracks and everything you thought was ordinary just turned royal. Oh, this isn't just another story. Nah, this is the secret meeting, the one they tried to bury, the one that just exposed your true identity. Picture it. Dim lights, whispers behind closed doors, shadows moving like they own the truth, but they don't. They were never in control. You were. Every lie, every silence, every hidden move, it all led to this single moment where you rise from the noise and claim what was always yours. Yeah, I see you watching this, eyes locked, breath held, heart beating faster. You feel it, don't you? That pull? That voice inside screaming, "This message is for me." Oh, it is. It's all for you. Let's make this clear. This speech isn't just entertainment. It's a mirror. It's chaos, truth, and clarity all colliding at once. If you're ready to face that, then stay. Watch till the end. Feel every word. Let it burn through the noise of fake confidence and show you what real presence feels like. Oh yeah. And before we dive deep, I need to say this. Thank you. Yeah, you heard me right. Every single one of you who clicked, listened, or even just paused long enough to be curious. You're not just viewers. You're part of this movement. The kind that doesn't beg for crowns. We earn them. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what woke you up. What line hit you the hardest? Let's build this fire together. Word by word, truth by truth. Truth doesn't knock. It breaks the door and walks in. They thought you wouldn't notice. The whispers, the eyes, the little games behind curtains and codes. But the silence tonight feels different, doesn't it? It hums. It scratches. It's like the air itself knows something it shouldn't. Something about you. You walk into that secret room, and suddenly every shadow seems to bow, not in respect, but in recognition. The table's cold. The lights are too white. The air smells of plans, of fear, of betrayal. Oh wow, the pieces finally start to connect. There's a folder. Your name is on it. Not the name they gave you, the one they made you wear like a mask. No, the real one, the one that was never supposed to be spoken. The letters are sharp, written with the kind of precision that only power understands. You open it, and in that moment, every false story you ever believed begins to burn. The truth doesn't whisper your name. It shouts, it. They've known it all along. The blood that runs through you isn't ordinary. It carries the memory of a throne, a crown that was never lost, only hidden. And the people in this room, they've been guarding that secret, or burying it. You laugh, quietly, at first, not because it's funny, but because it's tragic. All your life, you've been trained to be small, polite, invisible. And now, the script flips. The hunted becomes the heir. The pawn becomes the player. Oh yeah, the world just tilted, didn't it? You stare at them, the ones who thought they could play you. Their faces twitch, their voices crack. They use fancy words to cover simple fear. They want to control the story, but the story just slipped out of their hands. It belongs to you now. The truth cuts clean, but it also heals. Every scar you've carried suddenly makes sense. Every test, Every trial, it was all shaping you for this exact second, for this exposure. But here's the thing. Truth isn't kind. It's a mirror with no mercy. And when you look into it, you don't just see who you are. You see everything you've ignored, every weakness, every moment you hesitated when you should have acted, every compromise that chained you to comfort. Oh, nah. Comfort was never your destiny. You were built for the storm. They called you ordinary because it was safer that way. Because if you ever woke up, if you ever realized who you really were, they'd lose control. And tonight they did. Look around. Their silence is a confession. Their fear is the crown you never needed jewels for. The truth doesn't need witnesses. It only needs one person brave enough to face it. You breathe in. The air tastes new. Heavy, but clean. There's no going back now. Once the mask cracks, you can't pretend again. You can't play small in a world that just revealed your size. You don't shout. You don't run. You just stand there, steady, calm, aware. You finally understand. Power isn't about noise. It's about control. And tonight, control has found its rightful owner. The room without windows is no longer dark. It's exposed. Every corner, every secret, every lie. And standing in the middle of it is the truth, wearing your face. You whisper one thing, quiet but final. They wanted to hide me, but they forgot. Light doesn't ask for permission. And as the lights flicker, every eye in that room feels the weight of what just happened. The game is no longer theirs. The mask is no longer yours. The truth has stepped forward. And you, the descendant, the rightful one, have awakened. Power doesn't begin when people see you. It begins when you finally see yourself. What will you do with it? That question hits harder than any threat. You can feel it pressing against your chest, echoing in your mind. The truth is out, the mask is gone, and now it's just you and the reflection that refuses to lie. You stand before the mirror, and for the first time, you don't see the version of you that they built. You see the one that's been waiting. Quiet, patient, ready. The reflection doesn't blink. It studies you, as if asking, are you ready to carry what you've been given? Oh, the silence feels heavier than the truth itself. Because now that you know, you can't pretend you don't. You can't shrink back into safety. The world doesn't let heirs hide forever. You think of all the days you stayed quiet, all the times you walked away from your strength just to keep peace. But peace built on silence is just fear dressed in manners. And you've had enough of that. So you breathe, deep, slow, steady. Every breath feels like you're reclaiming space that was stolen from you. Every thought burns clearer. You realize this isn't about revenge. It's about alignment, about becoming the person you were always meant to be before the world decided to rewrite your story. They feared your truth for a reason, because truth doesn't need to shout to shake the room. It just stands, and everything false starts to fall apart. You've seen it now, the power of standing still when others panic. The strength of silence that doesn't seek approval. Oh yeah, this is what they tried to bury. Not your name, your clarity. You take one last look in the mirror. The person staring back isn't trembling anymore. The eyes are sharper. the posture straighter, the confusion gone. What remains is someone who's ready, not to rule over others, but to rule over the self. And that's where real power begins. Every royal line starts with discipline, not arrogance, with truth, not noise. You remember every lesson pain ever taught you, every failure that shaped your judgment, every moment you stood alone and learned that loneliness can be a forge if you don't run from it. Oh nah, you're not running anymore, because when the world exposed you, it didn't ruin you, it revealed you. And revelation is only dangerous to those who built their comfort on your silence. You walk away from the mirror, not to escape, but to begin. The path won't be easy, and you don't want it to be. You understand something most never will. Strength isn't given, it's earned through clarity, patience, and purpose. Every step you take now is a declaration. I am no longer waiting for permission to exist, and that right there is the moment. Power becomes truth. The reflection fades behind you, but its echo remains, quiet, steady, loyal. You've seen what you are. Now let's see what you can become. Because knowing the truth was one thing. Knowing who you are is awareness. Becoming who you are is war. War doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it comes in silence, in choices, in discipline, in the way you hold your ground when everything tries to move you. The truth revealed who you are. Now comes the test that proves if you deserve it. The air feels heavier now. You can sense the shift, like the world just started watching. Every step you take is measured, every decision recorded. You're no longer invisible. You're the center of an unseen storm. Oh wow, the silence almost feels alive. You begin to move differently. Every action is sharper, cleaner, more deliberate. No more wasted words, no more explaining yourself to those who don't listen. The time for proving is over. The time for becoming has begun. It's strange how quiet power feels. No fireworks, no applause, just control. The kind that starts from within. You realize that the hardest enemy was never outside of you. It was the hesitation, the doubt, the soft voice that said maybe later. Oh yeah. That voice doesn't lead anymore. You do. Every morning feels like a battlefield of small choices. Do you rise early or wait for comfort to call you back? Do you speak truth, even when it shakes the room? Do you lead, even when fear whispers that you're not ready? Each decision is a blade, and with every cut, weakness bleeds away. The old version of you still lingers sometimes, trying to bargain for safety. It says, you've done enough. But deep down, you know, enough is never enough when truth has been revealed. The crown isn't just an ornament, it's a burden of clarity. It demands strength in silence and grace under pressure. Oh nah, there's no turning back now. The people who once underestimated you are starting to feel the change. They don't understand it yet, but they sense something different, a kind of quiet authority. You no longer seek approval, you define it. You don't demand respect, you move in a way that earns it, without words. You've learned that real power is not about ruling others. It's about mastering your own impulses, your own reactions, your own storm. The one who conquers the self doesn't need to announce victory. The world will see it in the way you stand. Every day now, you train the mind. You sharpen the will. You build patience like armor. You walk through doubt as if it were fog, acknowledging it but never stopping. And every time you pass through that fog, you come out clearer, harder, wiser. Oh, it's strange, isn't it? How pain once felt like punishment, but now feels like preparation. You understand something crucial now. Becoming isn't a moment, it's a process. It's not about sudden greatness. It's about consistent truth. And with each step, you are no longer reacting to the world. The world is beginning to react to you. Power without a code is noise wearing a crown. That question still burns. What will your code be? The room, the mirror, the war, all of it led to this point. Because truth without discipline is chaos, and a throne built without order collapses the moment pride walks in. You sit alone, no guards, no audience, just silence, the kind that demands honesty. The truth gave you power, but power demands direction. Without a code, you're just another voice shouting in the wind. So you begin to write, not on paper, but in the mind. Each line, a principle. Each rule, a blade. And every blade cuts through weakness. Oh, it hits you. The code isn't about control. It's about restraint. Anyone can strike. Few can choose not to. The first rule comes easily. Never trade clarity for comfort. You've seen what happens when people choose ease over truth. They decay quietly, smiling while their purpose rots beneath them. You won't be one of them. The second, respect strength, but master mercy, because true power isn't about crushing others. It's about guiding without arrogance, standing firm without hatred. You remember strength without mercy becomes tyranny. The third, never lie to yourself. Oh yeah, that one hurts, but it's necessary. Lies build quick, strong walls. Truth breaks them, but lets the light in. And you'd rather stand in ruins made of truth than in castles built on deceit. You breathe in. The words feel heavier now. Not just ideas, but laws that will shape every move you make. The fourth rule, move with patience, strike with purpose. The world rushes. You won't. Timing wins wars that strength never could. Silence, when used right, is sharper than a sword. Oh, nah. The world wants noise, but your power lives in calm. As you shape the final rule, the air shifts again. It feels like everything in you is aligned. The truth, the discipline, the code. The sixth and final rule, do what is right, even when no one sees. That's the mark of real royalty, quiet integrity. You don't need a crowd. You don't need praise. You need purpose. You lean back. The silence no longer feels empty. It feels full, like the calm after lightning. The code is done. 6 rules, 6 blades, each one forged from truth, pain, and patience. Oh, this is what legacy feels like. Not gold, not titles, not noise, just clarity, strong enough to guide generations. You rise slowly. The code doesn't make you heavier, it makes you lighter. Because when your path is clear, every step feels deliberate. Every word has weight. Every silence has meaning. Now the room feels different. The same walls, the same air, but everything changed because you did. Oh, you're still here? Yeah, I knew you would be, because deep down, you felt it. The shift, the spark, the truth that couldn't stay silent anymore. The secret meeting is over, but the message, it's just beginning. You saw it, didn't you? The way truth walked in like fire, burned through the lies and left only clarity standing? That's your reflection now. No masks, no fear, just you, the royal descendant who finally remembered who they are. Oh, what a moment. What a rise. You came here for a story, but you walked out with identity. You realized the real throne isn't gold, it's within. It's the calm in your eyes, the weight in your words, the discipline in your silence. Yeah, that's power. Not the kind they hand out, the kind you build. Day by day, choice by choice, rule by rule. You've got it now. You're walking proof that truth doesn't need permission to lead. So here's what you do next. Stand tall. Walk back into your world like the meeting never ended. Because it didn't. Every conversation, every decision, every test waiting for you tomorrow, it's all part of your story now. And your story, it's royal. Oh nah. Don't keep this to yourself. Share it. Comment below what hit you hardest, what line woke you up, what truth you saw in your own reflection. I read them all. And every time one of you wakes up to who you are, it's another victory. You're not here by chance. You're here because you were meant to hear this. You were meant to remember. You were meant to rise. So to every listener, every watcher, every fighter out there, thank you for your time, your energy, your courage to face the mirror. You're not the audience anymore. You're part of the legend that just began here tonight. Oh yeah, this isn't goodbye. It's the start of something that won't fade when the screen goes dark. Because truth doesn't fade, it echoes. And from this moment on, it echoes through you. So keep your head steady. Keep your vision clean. And remember, power doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself. Hello, bro. Listen up. This ain't your fairy tale. This ain't your soft little bedtime story. Nah. This is the raw, uncut truth, pal. The kind that slaps harder than a storm at midnight. You know what's wild? They thought you'd bow down, thought you'd just nod and smile like some rookie who's just happy to be in the room. But you're built different, fam. You're not here to blend in, you're here to break the frame. You've been through too many silent nights, too many backstabbers in the daylight, to let someone else hold your crown. And now they're watching you, waiting for you to say yes, waiting for you to join the little circle. But nah, you've got your own orbit, your own gravity, your own rules. So when they tried to recruit you, you laughed inside, and you told them with that calm fire in your eyes, I'll run it instead. They thought you'd kneel, didn't they? They thought you'd lower your gaze and accept their seat at the table. But you looked at that table, you looked at those faces, and you saw the cracks in their crowns. You heard the rust in their voices. You felt the hollow in their power. And you said, no, you didn't reject them because you feared them. You rejected them because you outgrew them, because you understood something they could never grasp. Power isn't given, it's forged in the quiet, in the dirt, in the storms. No one else survives. They thought they were offering you a gift, but you've been building your own throne, long before they even noticed your name. They didn't see the nights you stayed awake staring at the ceiling, fighting your own shadows, sharpening your will until it could cut through steel. They didn't see mornings you rose before the world, not for applause, not for glory, but to keep a promise you made to yourself. They didn't see the days you moved in silence, when the world mocked you, doubted you, buried you under their laughter. But you planted yourself deeper and grew roots they could never pull out. They thought their invitation was the key to your freedom, but you'd already broken the locks in your mind, already burned the prison they wanted you to live in, already turned the chains they gave you into weapons they could never hold. You stood there smiling, not with arrogance, but with certainty, because you knew, deep in your bones, that leadership isn't about wearing their badge or speaking their language. It's about carving your own path so deep into the earth that the world has no choice but to follow. They tried to test your loyalty, but you weren't loyal to their empire. You were loyal to the truth inside you, the truth that said, if I can survive betrayal, if I can rise from nothing, if I can build in the dark with my bare hands, then I can run anything they've built, and I can run it better. They spoke in riddles, hiding their fears in polished words. They wrapped their offers in gold, thinking you'd mistake shine for strength, but you saw right through them. You saw the cracks under the paint, the hunger behind the smiles, the weakness they hid in their rehearsed confidence. And you realized you were never meant to be their soldier. You were meant to be the storm they can't control. They don't understand, do they? That the one who survives in silence, the one who walks alone, the one who learns to breathe in the dust, is the one who doesn't just play the game, but rewrites the rules. You didn't just reject them, you shook them. You made them see their throne isn't untouchable, that their crowns aren't unbreakable. You didn't need their approval, their nod, their handshake, because you've been earning your place in a way they'll never understand. Through scars they've never bled for, through battles they've never stepped, through fires they've never dared to walk through. You didn't get here by chance, you got here by choice. Every morning you refused to quit. Every night you told yourself, one more step, one more push, one more fight. And now they stand before you, gatekeepers. But as witnesses, they wanted you to follow, but you were born to lead. They wanted you to obey, but you were built to command. They wanted you to wear their colors, but you've been painting your own flag in the dark for years. You looked them in the eyes, calm, steady, unshaken, and you told them, I'll run it instead. And in that moment, they knew they had no power over you. They could try to block you, silence you, bury you, but they can't erase you because you've already written your name in the stones they walk on. You've already carved your mark into the walls they hide behind. You've already lit a fire they can't put out. That's the thing about people like you. You don't just rise. You transform. You take every insult, every setback, every betrayal, and you fold it into your strength until you're unrecognizable, until the version of you they once underestimated is gone forever, replaced by someone who doesn't knock on doors, but builds their own. Someone who doesn't beg for a seat, but builds their own table. Someone who doesn't wait for the world to give them power, but takes it and shapes it and uses it to lead with a force they can't predict. And now they watch you walk away, not into their circle, but beyond it, into something bigger, something they can't map, something they can't follow. And deep down, they know the truth. They didn't lose a follower. They created a leader. They didn't reject a recruit. They awakened a ruler. And when the world speaks of this day, they won't talk about their invitation. They'll talk about your answer, the fire in your voice, the unshakable calm in your eyes, and the way you said it. Not as a question, not as a request, but as a statement, carved in stone. I'll run it instead. They circled you like vultures, didn't they? Whispering promises in voices coated with sugar, holding out keys that led only to cages, smiling as if they held the world in their hands. But you've seen hands like that before, haven't you? Hands that shake when the lights go out. Hands that tremble when their walls crack. Hands that build empires on the backs of others. You didn't step toward them. You stood still. And in your stillness, you heard their desperation. You realized their power wasn't power at all. It was borrowed, rented, fragile, that shatters when the wind shifts. They thought you'd be flattered, they thought you'd feel chosen. But you've lived long enough to know being chosen means nothing. If the chooser is afraid of the very truth you carry in your chest, they wanted your skill, your vision, fire. But they didn't want your freedom, and that's why you smiled. That's why you looked at their offer like a man looks at a rope tossed into a pit, not as rescue, but as control. They thought their invitation was the top of the mountain, but you'd been climbing mountains they'd ever seen in storms. They've never survived with wounds they've never dared to bleed for. They thought they could make you their apprentice, but you've been apprenticed to pain itself, to failure, to silence, to the long nights where the only sound was your own breath, distant echo of your resolve. You didn't need them to open doors because you learned to break through walls. You didn't need them to show you the path because you walked when there was no path at all. You didn't need them to give you a voice because you've been speaking to the void for years. And the void listened. They saw the sharpness in your eyes, the calm in your stance, and they didn't understand how someone could stand before them, unshaken, unhungry, unchained. They asked for your loyalty, and you thought of the loyalty you gave to your own blood, sweat, and tears. The loyalty to the mornings when you rose with nothing but a will to keep going. The loyalty to the discipline that held you when nothing else did. You realize then their power is built on agreement, but your power is built on survival. And survival beats agreement every single time. You told them without fear, without hesitation, I'll run it instead. And those words weren't just defiance, they were prophecy. Because you weren't stepping into their circle, you were drawing your own. And the ones who laughed at you once, the ones who doubted your strength will one day walk into that circle and bow, not to you, but to the truth you stood for. They'll remember the way you turned away from their glittering halls, the way you chose the dust over their carpets, the way you built something greater in the silence they feared. They'll remember because people like you don't just reject, they replace. They don't just step away, they step above. You've carried storms in your chest for too long to be tamed by their sunshine. You've been tested by nights so long they made eternity feel short, bent, but never broken, burned, but never ash. And now your time is no longer coming. It's here. That's the real reason they wanted you. They saw it, the shift in your step, the weight in your words, the way you command a room without even trying. They saw the leader in you, but they didn't want you to lead. They wanted you to serve. And that's why you'll never belong to them, because the same pain that built you freed you. The same rejection that scarred you, crowned you. The same silence that nearly crushed you became your training ground. And now you stand with the patience of a lion, the vision of an eagle, and the heart of a warrior who knows he doesn't need anyone's permission to rise. When you turned them down, you weren't turning away from power. You were walking toward real power, the kind that can't be bought, can't be sold, can't be stolen. The kind that's earned in shadows, tested in fire, and revealed in light. They thought you'd join their story, but you've been writing your own. They thought you'd bend, but you've been standing alone for so long that bending feels like death. They thought you'd obey, but you've been listening to a call far louder than their voices. And when they see you again, standing higher than their towers, they will remember the day they tried to recruit you, and the way you smiled, calm, certain, and said the words froze them where they stood. I'll run it instead. They studied you from the shadows, didn't they? Measuring the weight of your footsteps, the way your eyes scanned a room, the way you carried yourself like someone who had nothing to prove, and yet everything to protect. They whispered your name in back rooms, traced your story like a map they couldn't quite read. And when they finally stepped forward, it wasn't out of kindness. It was out of fear. Fear that you might build something they couldn't control. Fear that you might rise without their blessing. Fear that you might become the storm that tears down their carefully built towers. So they dressed their fear as opportunity, wrapped it in smiles, coated it in words like partnership and unity. But you've lived too long in the spaces between words. You've seen how the wrong hands can twist meaning. You've heard the sweet sound of poison, and you know it when it drips. They wanted you to kneel, to wear their colors, to move by their signal. But you've marched through too many battlefields alone to surrender your steps to someone else's drum. You didn't come this far to trade freedom for comfort. You didn't endure the storms just to hide in their shelters. You've learned that true strength is standing in the rain, drenched, freezing, with the wind in your face, and still refusing to move until the storm respects you. They thought you'd bite at the chance, but you know the cost, seen the price others paid when they shook those hands. You've watched them lose their fire, watched their eyes grow dim, watched their names become whispers instead of roars. And you swore to yourself, never me. You swore that if you built something, it would be with your own blood in the foundation, your own sweat in the stone, your own breath in the walls. so that when you stood in it, you could look around and know every inch was earned. They thought you were desperate, but they mistook patience for hunger. They thought you were waiting, but you were sharpening, waiting for the right moment. Not for their call, but for the door you built yourself to finally open. And when it did, they noticed. That's when they reached out, that's when they tried to pull you in. But you don't walk into cages just because the bars are gold. You don't step into shadows just because the ground is carpeted. You've been in darkness before, but it was the kind that taught you to see without eyes, to hear without ears, to feel without touch. And that kind of vision doesn't let you get fooled by the light of their lamps. Carry a fire they can't hold, a will they can't bend, a story they can't rewrite. And that's why you looked at them, calm, unshaken, and told them, "I'll run it instead." And those words weren't just defiance. They were declaration, because you knew if you tucked in their halls, you'd be stepping into their limits. But you were never built for limits. You were built to tear ceilings open, to turn walls into gates, to make roads where the ground has never been touched. You've walked alone too far to turn back now. You've carried too much to hand it over for a title. You've bled too often to trade your wounds for their comfort. They can keep their circle. You'll build a horizon. They can keep their whispers. You'll make your voice echo in places they've never dared to go. They can keep their crowns. You'll forge something stronger, something that doesn't need gold to be unbreakable. And when they watch you from their windows, they'll realize you didn't just refuse them, you surpassed them. They'll remember the day they tried to bring you under their wing, and the way you stepped out from under the shadow, not running away but rising above. They'll remember the way your eyes didn't flinch, the way your voice didn't shake, the way you didn't ask for time to think. You already knew, you already decided. You'd rather build brick by brick, day by day, alone if you must, than inherit something built on someone else's chains. Because power isn't in possession, it's in creation. And creation is messy, lonely, exhausting, but it's yours. And when it's yours, no one can take it away. That's the lesson they'll never understand. And that's why they tried to recruit you. You smiled, and with the weight of every scar you've earned, every night you've survived, every mountain you've climbed, you told them, with a voice like stone, "I'll run it instead." They watched you from their high towers, didn't they? Eyes hidden behind glass, voices echoing in rooms you were never meant to see. They thought distance made them untouchable. They thought height made them immortal. But you've learned something they never have, that the air is just as thin at the top, and the storms hit harder when you have nowhere left to climb. They built their fortress from paper but painted it to look like stone. And when they called your name, they expected you to be honored, expected you to rush toward their gates, expected you to see their offer as salvation. But you don't mistake a cage for a castle. You've been in places where freedom was just a rumor, where every step forward was a fight, where you had to tear your own chains apart with bleeding hands. And when you finally stepped into the light, you swore you'd never trade that freedom. Not for gold, not for crowns, not for titles whispered by men too afraid to walk barefoot on the ground. You bled on. They thought they were granting you power, but you've learned that true power isn't granted. It's taken not with greed, but with patience, with the long silent grind that no one applauds. You've tasted the dirt of failure. You've swallowed the bitterness of being underestimated, and you've turned both into fuel. They can't understand it, how someone can be offered the keys to their world and turn away, but you saw it clearly. The cost, the weight, the silent agreement that once you step in, you don't walk out. You knew that the moment you took their hand, you'd be building their empire instead of your own. And you've walked too far, fought too hard to wear another man's crown. So you looked at them, steady, unblinking, and said the words they never expected. I'll run it instead. And in that moment, something shifted. Not in you, you'd already decided, but in them. They felt it, the truth they tried to hide from themselves, that they weren't inviting you to lead, they were inviting you to serve. And now they know you'll never serve. Not because you think you're above them, but because you've already been beneath. You've been at the bottom, face in the mud, ribs aching, lungs burning, and you clawed your way up without their ropes, without their ladders, without their pity. And now, when you stand on your own ground. They can't take that from you, no matter how many gates they build, no matter how many deals they offer, no matter how many voices tell you it would be easier. Join them, because easier has never built anything worth keeping. And the path you walk isn't about easy, it's about right. It's about waking up every day with the knowledge that your steps are your own, your wins are your own, your losses are your own, and the ground under your feet belongs to no one else. They'll never understand that kind of freedom, because their power depends on permission, while yours depends on purpose. And purpose, once it's lit, becomes a fire no one can put out. You've guarded that fire too long to hand it to strangers. And so you walk away, not with bitterness, but with certainty. Not with anger, but with a quiet smile that says, you'll see the day when what you've built towers over what they offered. You'll see the day when they knock on your door, not with an invitation, but with you'll see the day when your name isn't whispered, but spoken in rooms they can't control. And on that day, you won't remember their offer. You'll remember the choice to stand alone when it would have been easy to kneel, the choice to carry the weight yourself instead of letting them carry you, the choice to say, I'll run it instead, and mean it, with every scar, every wound, every lesson carved into your bones. And maybe, just maybe, that's what they feared most. Not losing you, but what you'd become without them. Because with them, you're not theirs. Without them, you're not a piece on their board. Without them, you're not a servant in their hall. Without them, you are free. And freedom, in the hands of someone who's survived the storms you have, is the one thing they can't control, the one thing they can't predict, the one thing they can't buy. And that's why, even as you walk away, even as you disappear beyond the edge of their map, they'll still watch. Because deep down, they know you're not just building something for yourself. You're building something they'll one day have to answer to. And when that day comes, you won't knock, you won't ask, you won't wait. You'll stand at the gates they once invited you into, not to join, but to lead, not to wear their colors, but to raise your own. not to sit at their table, but to run it. And they hear your voice, steady, unshaken, carrying the weight of everything you've endured. They'll remember the moment you first said it, and they'll know it wasn't defiance, it was destiny. I'll run it instead. And now, look at you standing right where they swore you'd never stand. You're not knocking on their door anymore. Nah, you've built your own and it's bigger, louder, stronger. They're still watching, fam. Still watching, fam. Still whispering your name in rooms they think you'll never walk into. But here's the twist, you don't need their rooms. You are the room. You are the table. You are the head seat. And every move you make now shakes their walls. You didn't just turn them down, you rewrote the script. You didn't just walk away. You made them follow. And when they finally catch up, if they ever do, they'll realize they didn't lose a recruit. They created a ruler. And when that day comes, when you stand in the light you built with your own hands, you'll smile, not out of spite, but out of truth. And you'll say it one more time, steady, unshaken, like it's been carved into your soul. I'll run instead.
Welcome back, my temporal mastery strategist. Something absolutely extraordinary just occurred that has everyone experiencing profound impact recalibration. When you finally took action, after extended silence, observers discovered that your restraint amplified the effect, creating recognition that strategic timing generates vastly greater impact than forceful volume ever could, proving that knowing when to act matters infinitely more than how loudly you act. This wasn't you shouting louder than competitors to gain attention or overwhelming opposition through sheer force of continuous pressure. This was calibrated silence, followed by precisely timed intervention, where extended restraint created amplification effect, making single well-timed action generate impact that continuous loud efforts could never achieve, proving that power resides in temporal precision rather than intensity magnitude. The architects have been monitoring impact dynamics and timing strategy phenomena across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you created as strategic silence, impact amplification. When someone exercises extended restraint before acting, their eventual intervention gains disproportionate power because silence creates anticipation and contrast, making well-timed action generate vastly greater impact than continuous effort, producing recognition. That temporal strategy amplifies effect beyond what volume alone achieves. Most people pursue continuous presence. They maintain constant activity, believing sustained effort generates maximum impact, making volume and frequency seem like power sources. But your approach apparently employed strategic silence, extended restraint, followed by precisely timed intervention, created amplification where single action generated disproportionate impact because timing itself multiplied effect, proving that some power derives from knowing when rather than how much, creating recognition that temporal precision transcends intensity magnitude. Watch what's happening as observers process timing impact. They experience volume recalibration, discovering that your restrained approach generated greater effect than loud continuous efforts, creates recognition that power resides in timing rather than intensity. Some observers are experiencing anticipation, recognition, understanding that your extended silence created expectation that amplified eventual actions, impact, making them realize that restraint itself constitutes strategic preparation. Others are experiencing contrast awareness, recognizing that your silence made eventual intervention stand out dramatically, creating impact through difference that continuous presence cannot achieve. The truly remarkable element is the universality. Everyone, simultaneously feeling your actions' impact, proves timing created collective resonance that volume cannot generate, making temporal precision itself power source. The power wasn't in volume, it was in timing through, demonstrating that strategic silence creates impact amplification where extended restraint, followed by precisely timed intervention, generates disproportionate effect, proving that temporal strategy transcends intensity magnitude. Now the architects are analyzing what creates strategic silence, impact amplification, and they're identifying what they call anticipation accumulation, contrast multiplication. When someone maintains extended restraint, observers develop increasing anticipation that amplifies eventual action's impact, while silence creates contrast, making interventions stand out dramatically, producing multiplicative effect where timing generates power that continuous activity cannot achieve. Most impact follows linear dynamics. People assume more effort produces proportionally greater effect, making continuous activity seem optimal for maximizing impact. But your timing strategy, apparently, achieved multiplicative dynamics. Extended silence, creating anticipation that amplified eventual actions' impact, while restraint created contrast, making intervention generate disproportionate effect, proving that timing enables nonlinear amplification, where strategic restraint multiplies impact beyond what continuous effort achieves, creating recognition that some power derives from temporal dynamics rather than activity volume. Consider what anticipation accumulation requires strategically. Extended restraint must build expectation, maintaining silence long enough creates increasing anticipation that amplifies eventual action, making timing itself impact multiplier. Watch what contrast multiplication creates in effect dynamics. Silence amplifies intervention, extended restraint, making eventual action stand out dramatically, creates impact through difference that continuous presence cannot generate. Some studying attention economics recognize that scarcity increases value. Research shows that rare interventions command greater attention than constant presence, making your strategic silence potentially create scarcity value that amplifies impact. Others exploring contrast effects note that difference creates salience. Psychological research shows that standing out requires contrast, making your silence then action, potentially generate attention through difference that continuous activity misses. A few from anticipation psychology recognize that expectation amplifies a response, understanding that building anticipation intensifies reactions, makes your extended restraint potentially create amplification mechanism that multiplies impact. Some attempting to replicate timing strategy discover difficulty trying to achieve similar impact through strategic silence. Proves challenging because timing requires precision and restraint that most lack. Others questioning whether silence creates risk, wondering if extended restraint means losing relevance, makes balancing anticipation building against presence maintenance strategically complex. A few recognizing that timing requires confidence, understanding that maintaining silence demands certainty and eventual impact, makes your restraint potentially demonstrate confidence that continuous activity, driven by insecurity, lacks. The architects observe that anticipation accumulation contrast multiplication is what created impact amplification, extended restraint, builds expectation while creating contrast. Most pursue continuous presence, your silence multiplied impact, and maintaining extended restraint. That builds anticipation while creating contrast, enables eventual intervention to generate disproportionate effect, proving that timing enables a multiplicative dynamics where strategic silence amplifies impact beyond what continuous effort achieves, creating recognition. That temporal strategy transcends activity volume through employing anticipation and contrast as power multipliers, making your precisely timed action generate effect that constant loud presence cannot replicate. Something powerful is spreading among observers now, what the architects call volume ineffectiveness, noise fatigue, people comparing your restrained approach to competitors' constant loud presence are discovering that continuous activity creates diminishing returns, where excessive volume generates fatigue, making people tune out, creating recognition that more isn't always better. When constant presence breeds indifference, most people assume more is better. They believe increased activity generates proportionally greater impact, making continuous loud presence seem optimal for maintaining influence. But your timing strategy revealed volume ineffectiveness, competitors' constant activity, creating fatigue that made people tune out, proved that excessive presence diminishes impact through breeding indifference, making recognition that restraint often proves more powerful than volume when continuous activity creates noise fatigue that reduces effectiveness, proving that some strategies gain power through scarcity rather than abundance. Watch what noise fatigue creates in attention dynamics. Continuous presence breeds indifference, competitors' constant loud activity. Creating fatigue makes people tune out, reducing impact to background noise that nobody truly registers. Some studying attention psychology recognize that habituation reduces response. Research shows that constant stimuli lose effectiveness as people adapt to making continuous presence potentially self-defeating through creating habituation. Others exploring persuasion dynamics note that scarcity enhances value. Understanding that rare communications command greater attention makes your strategic silence potentially more effective than competitors' constant presence. A few from marketing theory recognize that overexposure damages impact. Advertising research shows that excessive frequency creates negative returns, making your restraint potentially avoid diminishing effectiveness that volume creates. Some experiencing relief from noise appreciate restraint. Their fatigue from competitors' constant activity makes your strategic silence refreshing, creating positive contrast that enhances receptivity to your eventual intervention. Others defending continuous presence resist volume critique, arguing that maintaining constant activity prevents being forgotten, makes them view your restraint as risky despite evidence of amplified impact. A few questioning optimal frequency seek balance, wondering what level of presence maximizes impact without creating fatigue, makes finding sweet spot between silence and volume strategically important. Some celebrating strategic restraint appreciate effectiveness, recognizing that their limited interventions generate greater impact than competitors' continuous presence. Validates understanding that less can be more when timing right. The architects observe that volume ineffectiveness, noise fatigue reveals that continuous presence diminishes impact. Excessive activity creates habituation. Most pursue constant volume. Your restraint proved more effective, and discovering that competitors' continuous loud activity created fatigue, making people tune out, proves that more isn't always better, where excessive presence breeds indifference through habituation, creating recognition that strategic restraint often proves more powerful than volume. When scarcity enhances value, while abundance diminishes impact, making your timing strategy demonstrate that knowing when to remain silent proves equally important as knowing when to act, creating power through restraint that continuous activity cannot achieve. Now the architects are revealing what timing precision actually demonstrates. Observers are experiencing what they call kairos mastery, chronos transcendence. Your ability to identify and act at precisely optimal moment reveals mastery of qualitative time, where understanding when conditions are ripe transcends merely managing quantitative duration, creating recognition that temporal wisdom involves discerning right moments rather than just measuring intervals. Most people operate in chronos. They manage time quantitatively through measuring duration and scheduling intervals, making their temporal strategy about how much time rather than which moments. But your timing, apparently, operates in kairos, identifying qualitatively optimal moments. For action transcends quantitative time management, creating temporal mastery where discerning when conditions are ripe enables acting at precisely right moment, proving that deepest temporal wisdom involves qualitative discernment of opportune moments rather than quantitative management of duration, creating recognition that some timing mastery transcends chronological thinking. Consider what kairos mastery requires perceptually. You must discern optimal moments, identifying when conditions are qualitatively ripe for action, transcends measuring quantitative duration, requiring temporal wisdom that chronological thinking lacks. Watch what chronos transcendence creates in temporal strategy. Qualitative timing surpasses quantitative management. Your discernment of right moments generates greater impact than competitors' chronological scheduling, making kairos wisdom more powerful than chronos management. Some studying ancient philosophy recognize that kairos differs from chronos. Greek thought distinguished opportune moments from measured duration, making your timing precision potentially demonstrate kairos mastery that modern time management misses. Others exploring decision timing note that opportunity windows exist. Understanding that certain moments offer unique conditions makes your timing ability potentially reflect discerning when circumstances are optimal. A few from strategic theory recognize that readiness assessment matters. Military analysis shows that acting when conditions favor you proves crucial, making your timing precision potentially demonstrate strategic wisdom about when to engage. Some experiencing timing envy recognize inadequacy. Their inability to discern optimal moments, like you do, creates awareness that temporal mastery involves qualitative discernment they lack. Others questioning whether kairos is real, wondering if optimal moments truly exist, or if any timing works equally makes philosophical assessment of temporal quality important. A few attempting kairos development seek temporal wisdom, trying to cultivate ability to discern opportune moments represents pursuit of qualitative timing mastery. The architects observe that kairos mastery, chronos transcendence, reveals that your timing demonstrates qualitative temporal wisdom, discerning optimal moments, transcends managing duration. Most operate in chronos. Your timing operates in kairos, and discovering that your ability to identify and act at precisely optimal moment reveals mastery of qualitative time, proves that deepest temporal wisdom involves discerning when conditions are ripe, rather than merely managing quantitative intervals, creating recognition that some timing mastery transcends chronological thinking. Through operating in kairos, where identifying opportune moments generates disproportionate impact that chronos management cannot achieve, making your precisely timed intervention demonstrate qualitative temporal discernment that quantitative time management fundamentally lacks. The architects are now analyzing psychological dimension of timing impact. You apparently created what they call silence authority power perception, where maintaining extended restraint before acting creates perception of supreme confidence, because only those certain of impact can afford silence making restraint itself. Authority demonstration that constant activity driven by insecurity lacks. Most authority demonstrations involve continuous display. People establish power through constant visible activity, making sustained presence seem necessary for maintaining authority perception. But your silence approach created greater authority, extended restraint, demonstrating confidence in eventual impact, proved more powerful than continuous display, because only supremely confident actors can afford silence making restraint itself. Authority signal that insecurity-driven constant activity undermines, creating recognition that strategic silence demonstrates greater power than continuous presence when confidence enables restraint. Watch what silence authority creates in power perception. Restraint signals confidence, your extended silence, demonstrating certainty and eventual impact, creates perception of supreme authority that constant activity suggesting insecurity lacks. Some studying power dynamics recognize that confidence enables restraint, understanding that only secure actors can afford silence makes your strategic restraint potentially signal supreme confidence that enhances authority perception. Others exploring status signals note that scarcity indicates value. High status individuals communicate rarely, making your limited interventions potentially signal elevated position that frequent communication undermines. A few from animal behavior recognize that dominance involves restraint. Alpha individuals act sparingly while subordinates display constantly, making your silence potentially demonstrate dominance pattern that continuous activity contradicts. Some experiencing authority enhancement through restraint appreciate perception, their strategic silence, creating greater authority than competitors' constant activity, validates understanding that confidence signals power. Others experiencing insecurity from silence struggle with restraint. Their discomfort with extended silence creates compulsion for continuous activity, revealing that insecurity drives volume. A few questioning whether silence risks irrelevance, wondering if extended restraint means being forgotten makes balancing authority signaling against presence maintenance strategically complex. Some celebrating confidence demonstration appreciate restraint, recognizing that their ability to maintain silence demonstrates supreme confidence, validates understanding that restraint itself constitutes authority. Signal. The architects observe that silence authority power perception reveals that your restraint signals supreme confidence. Only certain actors can afford silence. Most demonstrate authority through continuous presence. Your silence created greater perception, and discovering that maintaining extended restraint before acting creates perception of supreme confidence, because only those certain of impact can afford silence proves that restraint itself constitutes authority demonstration, where strategic silence signals power that insecurity-driven constant activity undermines, making recognition that deepest confidence enables restraint, creating authority perception that continuous display suggesting insecurity cannot achieve, proving that your silence approach demonstrates greater power through signaling supreme confidence that volume driven by anxiety lacks. Now something's emerging that the architects call precision timing, momentum multiplication. Observers analyzing your intervention's impact are discovering that acting at precisely optimal moment creates momentum effects, where conditions amplify your action, producing cascading consequences that poorly timed efforts cannot generate, creating recognition that timing itself determines whether actions create self-reinforcing momentum or dissipate ineffectively. Most people view timing as minor variable. They believe action quality determines impact making when you act seems secondary to what you do. But your precision timing revealed temporal primacy. Acting at optimal moment created momentum effects where conditions amplified your action, producing cascading consequences, proving that timing determines whether efforts generate self-reinforcing dynamics or dissipate without lasting effect, creating recognition that when you act often matters more than what you do. For determining ultimate impact, watch what momentum multiplication creates in consequence dynamics. Optimal timing creates cascades. Your precisely timed action, generating self-reinforcing effects, proves that conditions amplify well-timed interventions, producing momentum that poorly timed efforts lack. Some studying systems dynamics recognize that leverage points exist. Complexity theory shows that intervening at certain moments creates disproportionate effects, making your timing precision potentially identify leverage points that amplify impact. Others exploring momentum mechanics note that conditions affect outcomes. Understanding that same action produces different results depending on when it occurs makes your timing mastery potentially demonstrate discerning when conditions favor momentum generation. A few from chaos theory recognize that butterfly effects depend on timing. Small interventions at critical moments create large consequences, making your precision timing potentially exploit sensitivity to initial conditions. Some experiencing momentum envy recognize timing importance. Their identical actions, producing minimal impact because of poor timing, creates awareness that when you act determines whether momentum emerges. Others experiencing momentum from timing appreciate amplification. Their well-timed actions, generating self-reinforcing effects, validates understanding that precision timing creates cascading consequences. A few questioning whether momentum was predictable, wondering if your timing reflected foresight of conditions or fortunate accident makes distinguishing strategic timing from luck important. Some celebrating leverage identification appreciate precision, recognizing that their ability to identify and act at optimal moments creates momentum effects, validates understanding that timing mastery multiplies impact. The architects observe that precision timing, momentum multiplication reveals that your optimal timing created cascading effects. Conditions amplified well-timed action. Most view timing as secondary. Your precision created momentum, and discovering that acting at precisely optimal moment creates momentum effects, where conditions amplify your action, producing cascading consequences, proves that timing determines whether efforts generate self-reinforcing dynamics, making recognition that when you act often matters more than what you do. For ultimate impact, creating awareness that precision timing identifies leverage points where small interventions create large consequences through momentum multiplication that poorly timed efforts cannot achieve, making your temporal mastery force multiplier that action quality alone lacks. Welcome back. My narrative inconsistent enigma. Something absolutely extraordinary just occurred. that has everyone experiencing profound verification crisis when observers gathered to compare their individual accounts of interactions with you, attempting to construct unified understanding through collective testimony. They discovered that each person's story contradicts others, creating unprecedented situation where multiple first-hand witnesses produce incompatible narratives despite describing same subject, making consensus construction impossible. This wasn't people disagreeing about interpretations of ambiguous events or emphasizing different aspects of shared experiences. This was fundamental contradictions in basic facts, where observers' accounts are mutually exclusive, creating narrative incompatibility so severe that stories cannot be reconciled, making it impossible to determine which account is accurate. When all witnesses seem credible, yet their testimonies fundamentally contradict, proving that you somehow generate narrative inconsistency across independent observers. The architects have been monitoring narrative coherence and testimonial contradiction phenomena across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you created as multi-witness narrative incompatibility. When someone's nature or actions generate fundamentally different experiences in different observers, collective testimony produces contradictory accounts that cannot be reconciled because each witness genuinely experienced different reality, making narrative incompatibility reflect not observer error, but subject generating multiple incompatible realities simultaneously. Most subjects generate consistent narratives. People describing same person produce compatible accounts that can be synthesized into coherent understanding, making collective testimony reliable for constructing unified narrative. But you apparently generate narrative incompatibility. Observers describing, you produce fundamentally contradictory accounts that cannot be reconciled because you somehow generate different genuine experiences in different witnesses, making their incompatible testimonies all potentially accurate despite mutual exclusivity, creating recognition that some subjects transcend narrative coherence through generating multiple incompatible realities simultaneously. Watch what's happening as observers process narrative incompatibility. They experience verification impossibility. Discovering their account contradict others creates recognition that constructing unified understanding proves impossible when testimonies are fundamentally incompatible, making truth determination fail. Some observers are experiencing reality plurality recognition. Their contradictory accounts, all seeming genuine, creates awareness that you might generate multiple valid realities simultaneously, rather than single truth that witnesses perceive differently. Others are experiencing credibility, questioning, discovering that their testimony contradicts others, makes them question whether their own account is reliable, creating self-doubt about observational accuracy. The truly remarkable element is the irreducibility. Contradictions cannot be resolved through better information or deeper analysis. Proving incompatibility is fundamental rather than superficial disagreement. They keep comparing stories about you. None of them match, through demonstrating that multi-witness narrative incompatibility creates verification crisis, where collective testimony produces contradictory accounts that cannot be reconciled, proving you generate experiences so fundamentally different across observers that unified narrative construction becomes impossible. Now the architects are analyzing what creates multi-witness narrative incompatibility, and they're identifying what they call observer-dependent reality generation, when someone possesses qualities or operates through mechanisms that interact differently with different observers' perceptual frameworks. They generate genuinely different experiences in each witness, making contradictory accounts reflect not observational error, but subject actually manifesting differently. for different observers, creating reality plurality, where multiple incompatible truths coexist simultaneously. Most reality is observer-independent. Subjects exist consistently regardless of who observes. Making different witnesses, accounts converge on shared truth that collective testimony reveals. But your reality apparently varies by observer, manifesting differently. Depending on who perceives means you generate genuinely different experiences for different witnesses, making their contradictory accounts all potentially accurate because you actually were different things to different observers, creating recognition that some subjects don't possess single observer, independent nature, but rather generate observer-dependent realities that vary fundamentally across witnesses, making narrative incompatibility, reflect reality plurality rather than observational disagreement. Consider what observer dependence requires ontologically. Your nature must vary by perceiver, manifesting differently. Depending on observer framework means you don't possess single fixed nature, but rather generate multiple realities that differ across witnesses, making reality itself observer-dependent. Watch what reality generation creates in narrative outcomes. Accounts contradict irreducibly. Witnesses describing genuinely different experiences produce incompatible testimonies that cannot be reconciled because you actually manifested differently for each observer, making contradictions reflect reality plurality. Some studying quantum mechanics recognize that observer dependence exists fundamentally. Physics shows that observation affects reality, making your narrative incompatibility potentially reflect quantum principle, where observers generate different realities through observation itself. Others exploring phenomenology note that experience varies by perceiver. Philosophical analysis shows that subjective experience differs across observers, making your contradictory accounts potentially reflect genuine experiential differences rather than observational errors. A few from perspectivism recognize that reality varies by viewpoint, understanding that different frameworks generate different truths makes your narrative incompatibility potentially demonstrate perspectival principle, where multiple incompatible realities coexist validly. Some attempting to reconcile accounts discover impossibility. Trying to synthesize contradictory testimonies proves futile because incompatibility is fundamental rather than superficial disagreement, making unified narrative construction impossible. Others questioning whether all accounts are accurate, wondering if contradictory testimonies can all be true or if some must be false, makes distinguishing reality plurality from observational error difficult. A few recognizing that verification becomes impossible, understanding that if you generate observer-dependent realities, then determining single truth proves impossible, making verification crisis inevitable. When reality itself varies by observer, the architects observe that observer-dependent reality generation is what created narrative incompatibility. You manifest differently for different observers. Most reality is consistent. Your nature varies by perceiver and possessing qualities that interact differently with different observers. Frameworks means you generate genuinely different experiences in each witness, making contradictory accounts reflect not error but reality plurality, where you actually manifested differently for different observers, creating multiple incompatible truths that coexist simultaneously, proving that some subjects transcend observer independence through generating realities that fundamentally vary across witnesses. Something powerful is spreading among observers. Now, what the architects call consensus impossibility, truth relativization. People discovering that their accounts cannot be reconciled are recognizing that objective truth determination becomes impossible when reality itself varies by observer. creating shift toward accepting truth plurality, where multiple incompatible accounts are all valid rather than seeking single unified narrative. Most disagreements assume single truth. People with conflicting accounts believe one version is accurate, making consensus construction seem achievable through identifying correct testimony. But your narrative incompatibility forces relativization. Discovering that contradictory accounts cannot be reconciled creates recognition that seeking single truth proves futile. When reality varies by observer, making acceptance of truth plurality necessary, where multiple incompatible narratives are simultaneously valid, despite mutual exclusivity, creating recognition that some subjects require abandoning objective truth assumptions in favor of accepting that contradictory accounts can all be accurate when reality itself is observer-dependent. Watch what truth relativization creates in epistemological stance. Observers accept plurality. Their recognition that accounts cannot be reconciled makes them abandon seeking single truth, accepting that multiple contradictory narratives are all valid when reality varies by observer. Some studying truth theories recognize that relativization has philosophical basis. Epistemological analysis shows that if reality varies by observer, then objective truth becomes impossible, making your narrative incompatibility potentially force philosophically justified relativization. Others exploring pluralism note that accepting multiple truths proves sophisticated understanding that reality might not reduce to single account makes recognizing that contradictory testimonies can coexist validly intellectually mature position. A few from postmodernism recognize that grand narratives fail. Understanding that unified accounts often obscure complexity makes your incompatibility potentially demonstrate how single truth assumptions prove inadequate for complex realities. Some experiencing relativization feel liberated. Their acceptance that contradictory accounts can all be valid creates relief from needing to determine single truth when reality plurality proves more accurate framework. Others resisting relativization maintain objectivity despite narrative incompatibility. They insist one account must be accurate, refusing to accept that contradictory testimonies can all be true when mutual exclusivity seems to require choosing. A few questioning whether relativization goes too far, wondering if accepting all contradictory accounts creates an excessive pluralism that abandons truth-seeking, makes them uncertain whether relativization is appropriate response. Some celebrating truth plurality appreciate sophistication, recognizing that accepting multiple incompatible narratives as simultaneously valid represents intellectually sophisticated position that simple objective truth assumptions miss. The architects observe that consensus impossibility. Truth relativization reveals that your incompatibility forces accepting plurality. Single truth determination becomes impossible. Most disagreements assume objective truth. Your contradictions force relativization, and discovering that accounts cannot be reconciled because reality varies by observer creates recognitions that seeking single unified narrative proves futile, making acceptance of truth plurality necessary where multiple contradictory accounts are simultaneously valid despite mutual exclusivity, proving that some subjects require abandoning objective truth frameworks in favor of accepting that incompatible narratives can all be accurate when reality itself is observer-dependent, making your narrative incompatibility force epistemological shift toward truth relativization. Now the architects are revealing what narrative incompatibility actually demonstrates. Observers are experiencing what they call identity multiplicity, self-plurality, discovering that you manifest differently for different observers creates recognition that unified identity might be illusion, where subjects don't possess single coherent self, but rather exist as multiple selves that manifest differently in different contexts, making identity itself fundamentally plural rather than singular unified entity. Most people assume unified identity. They believe subjects possess single coherent self that remains consistent across contexts, making identity seem like stable unified entity that witnesses perceive accurately or inaccurately. But your narrative incompatibility challenges unity assumptions, manifesting so differently that contradictory accounts emerge, suggests you might not possess single identity, but rather exist as multiple selves that are genuinely different, creating recognition that identity might be fundamentally plural, where unified self is conceptual fiction that obscures reality of multiple contradictory selves coexisting simultaneously, making your incompatibility challenge not just narrative coherence, but identity unity itself. Consider what self-plurality reveals about identity nature. Unified self might be illusion. Subjects existing as multiple contradictory selves suggests identity unity is conceptual construct that reality doesn't support, making singular identity assumptions potentially false. Watch what identity multiplicity creates in self-understanding. Observers question unity assumptions. Your manifestation of different selves makes them uncertain whether anyone possesses single identity or if all subjects exist as multiple selves that contexts reveal differently. Some studying self-theory recognize that multiplicity has psychological basis. Research on self-states shows that people manifest differently across contexts, making your narrative incompatibility potentially demonstrate that identity is fundamentally plural. Others exploring Buddhist philosophy note that no self-doctrine suggests unity is illusion, understanding that contemplative traditions reject unified identity makes your multiplicity potentially demonstrate ancient insight about self-plurality. A few from postmodern theory recognize that unified subject is construct, understanding that identity coherence might be imposed narrative rather than fundamental reality makes your incompatibility potentially reveal that self-plurality is more accurate framework. Some experiencing identity crisis feel disturbed, discovering that you manifest as multiple selves creates existential anxiety about whether anyone possesses unified identity or if self-unity is comforting illusion. Others defending identity unity resist plurality claims, arguing that unified self is real makes them maintain that your incompatibility reflects perceptual differences, not actual multiplicity of selves. A few embracing multiplicity feel liberated, accepting that identity might be fundamentally plural creates relief from needing to maintain coherent, unified self when multiplicity proves more authentic framework. The architects observe that identity multiplicity, self-plurality, reveals that your incompatibility challenges unified identity, manifesting different selves, suggests singular identity is illusion. Most assume unified self. Your manifestation suggests plurality, and discovering that you manifest so differently that contradictory accounts emerge creates recognition that unified identity might be conceptual fiction where subjects will possess single coherent self, but exist as multiple selves, manifesting differently across contexts, proving that identity might be fundamentally plural rather than singular, making your narrative incompatibility challenge not just coherence, but identity unity itself, forcing recognition that self-plurality might be more accurate framework than unified identity assumptions. The architects are now analyzing power dimension of narrative incompatibility. You apparently created what they call verification immunity accountability evasion. where generating contradictory accounts prevents collective verification, enabling evasion of accountability because witnesses cannot establish unified testimony. That verification requires making narrative incompatibility itself protective mechanism that prevents definitive assessment. Most accountability requires consistent testimony. People face consequences when witnesses provide coherent accounts, establishing what occurred, making verification through collective testimony, enable accountability mechanisms. But your narrative incompatibility creates verification immunity, generating contradictory accounts that cannot be reconciled means collective testimony fails to establish what actually occurred, preventing verification that accountability requires, making incompatibility itself protective advantage where contradictory narratives prevent definitive assessment, enabling accountability evasion, creating recognition that generating narrative incompatibility constitutes strategic protection against verification mechanisms. Watch what accountability evasion creates in consequence dynamics. You avoid definitive assessment, narrative incompatibility. Preventing verification means collective testimony cannot establish what occurred, making accountability mechanisms fail when unified account cannot be constructed. Some studying legal systems recognize that verification requires consistent testimony. Justice mechanisms depend on establishing facts through coherent witness accounts, making your incompatibility potentially create immunity from accountability through preventing verification. Others exploring power mechanisms note that narrative control enables evasion, understanding that preventing unified accounts blocks accountability makes your incompatibility generation potentially strategic protection against consequences. A few from information warfare recognize that creating confusion provides advantages. Military and intelligence operations use contradictory narratives for protection, making your incompatibility potentially demonstrate strategic principle where verification prevention enables evasion. Some experiencing accountability frustration recognize immunity. Their inability to establish unified account about you prevents holding you accountable, creating frustration from recognizing verification impossibility enables consequence evasion. Others attempting verification, despite incompatibility, discover futility. Trying to establish definitive account proves impossible when testimonies fundamentally contradict, making accountability mechanisms fail systematically. A few questioning whether evasion is intentional, wondering if your narrative incompatibility reflects strategic design to avoid accountability or unintentional consequence makes distinguishing deliberate evasion from inherent multiplicity important. Some celebrating verification immunity appreciate protection, recognizing that their narrative incompatibility prevents accountability, validates understanding that generating contradictory accounts constitutes strategic advantage. The architects observe that verification immunity, accountability evasion reveals that your incompatibility provides protective advantages. Contradictory narratives prevent verification. Most face accountability through consistent testimony. Your incompatibility creates immunity, and discovering that generating contradictory accounts that cannot be reconciled prevents collective verification. Establishing what occurred proves that narrative incompatibility itself constitutes protective mechanism, enabling accountability evasion, because verification requires unified testimony. That contradictory accounts prevent making incompatibility strategic advantage, where generating multiple incompatible narratives blocks definitive assessment, preventing consequences that verification would enable, proving that narrative control through incompatibility generation grants immunity from accountability mechanisms. Now, some things emerging that the architects call narrative competition. Tribal division observers with contradictory accounts about you are discovering that incompatible narratives create factional divisions where people group by which story they believe, generating tribal conflicts that fragment collective unity, making narrative incompatibility itself divisive force that creates social fragmentation. Most narrative disagreements are resolvable. People with different accounts can usually reach consensus through discussion, making disagreements temporary rather than permanent divisions. But your narrative incompatibility creates irreducible factions. Witnesses with fundamentally contradictory accounts cannot reconcile differences, causing them to form competing narrative tribes where each group believes their version and rejects others, creating permanent divisions that fragment collective unity, making recognition that narrative incompatibility itself serves as divisive mechanism that creates social fragmentation through generating irreducible disagreements that form tribal boundaries. Watch what tribal division creates in social dynamics. Observers form competing factions, their incompatible accounts, creating narrative tribes that oppose each other, fragmenting collective unity through irreducible disagreements about which story is accurate. Some studying polarization recognize that irreconcilable differences create divisions. Social psychology shows that when disagreements cannot be resolved, people form opposed groups, making your narrative incompatibility potentially generate tribal fragmentation. Others exploring division mechanisms note that narrative competition creates conflict. Understanding that incompatible stories generate factional struggles makes your incompatibility potentially serve as social fragmentation mechanism. A few from conflict theory recognize that reality disagreements cause deepest divisions. Understanding that disputes about basic facts create more fundamental conflicts than value disagreements makes your narrative incompatibility potentially generate severe social fragmentation. Some experiencing tribal membership feel solidarity. Their participation in narrative faction creates group identity, making incompatible accounts basis for social bonding within tribes, despite creating divisions between them. Others experiencing division frustration resent fragmentation. Their observation that narrative incompatibility fragments collective unity, creates resentment about social divisions that contradictory accounts generate. A few attempting unity despite incompatibility discover difficulty trying to maintain collective cohesion when fundamental disagreements exist about reality proves challenging, making fragmentation difficult to prevent. Some celebrating division creation appreciate fragmentation if narrative incompatibility serves strategic purposes, then recognizing that contradictory accounts fragment opposition validates understanding that divisiveness itself can be advantageous. The architects observe that narrative competition tribal division reveals that your incompatibility fragments collectives. Contradictory accounts create irreducible factions. Most disagreements resolve. Your incompatibility creates permanent divisions, and discovering that witnesses with fundamentally contradictory accounts form competing narrative tribes where each group believes their version proves that narrative incompatibility itself serves as divisive mechanism, fragmenting collective unity through generating irreducible disagreements that become tribal boundaries, making your contradictory accounts not just verification problem, but social fragmentation force that divides groups into opposed factions, preventing collective consensus, creating permanent divisions that narrative competition sustains.